Hello there, Biaka Miuso desu and welcome to my review of NieR Replicant. So, the past 23rd of April came out a remastered version of NieR Replicant that I had the opportunity of playing. So, my birthday is on the 23rd of April and my boyfriend offered me the game, and because I was apart from the coincidence that it came out on my birthday, I really enjoyed NieR Automata and I really wanted to play. I was really curious about NieR Replicant. I have played since then NieR Replicant every day, so as you can see it took me about a month to play all the endings. I did all the endings, A, B, C and D and E. So it took me all this time because I don't play many hours per day. And I think to do all the things that I wanted, it took me about 60 hours to do all the endings and explore as much as I could. So about NieR Replicant, this is version, they have a really long number to say what version it is. I don't know the number and I will put it. And I didn't know anything about the original NieR. I understood from what I was seeing, I was also trying to get more information myself, that this game had two versions when it was originally released. So you have NieR Replicant, or I don't know which one is known as just NieR. You have NieR Replicant, which was the original Japanese version with the protagonist being Yona's brother, and then you have the Western version because the developer thought, not Yoko Taro, but the developers thought that having the brother would not be a best-selling for Western audiences, so they made NieR Gestalt. So you have what everyone calls as Papa NieR, which is a version in which the protagonist is Yona's father, and they have different designs. So of course this review will have spoilers to speak about some things about the plot and the things that you discover in the different endings. I really enjoyed all the game. So you first play with the protagonist. I will call him NieR because most people, but you can name it whatever you want. I named my protagonist Biak for my first run through. Of course, you can imagine why. But NieR, basically you have Yona and NieR. Yona is very sick with a disease called the Black Scroll, and basically NieR is always trying to find a cure, although everyone says that the Black Scroll is fatal and doesn't have a cure. So you spend the first half of the game playing with him in the path A, and then at a certain point Yona is kidnapped by the Shadow Lord because you have these things threatening people that are called the Shades, and then in the second half of path A you play with NieR as an adult, so 5 years later. You have NieR's team, so he teams up with Emil, which I already knew from NieR Automata, although he isn't part of the main plot. You can encounter him and he is a secret boss and everything. And you have Kaine. So Kaine is a very interesting character. At the beginning I didn't really like her because she's a kind of tough woman with a somewhat tsundere personality, and she has this really foul mouth, so she speaks lots of profanities and everything. But she's a really interesting character and she's really well developed throughout the game. Uh, of course, I find it very interesting because as you play the game, you find it hard to sympathize with NieR because he fails in many aspects. He is very single-minded, so he sees shades behaving differently, but he doesn't think much about it. He even at some point says it doesn't matter if shades dance or play the fiddle, I will kill them nonetheless. So I think he's really narrow-minded when it comes to his thoughts about the shades. Of course, he's a very easygoing boy until Yona is kidnapped, and then he has this kind of snap, and he becomes a little bit more edgy, a little bit more cold, and it's really hard to, because he's so focused on this path of revenge, of taking Yona back. And of course, although Yona really loves him and he really loves Yona, he does everything for Yona, you can see by the entries of Yona's diary that he spends really few time with her. So he knows he's more focused on trying to find a cure for the disease that he knows that no one really knows how to cure than spending time with his sister. And I think that's I think he's wasting time when he could be spending the time that he has with her, because you can see in her entries that she wants to spend more time with him, but he's always out doing other things. In path A, you do the run through, you go to the Shadow Lord's castle, you defeat the Shadow Lord, and you bring Yona with you. And it seems like at the end of path A that NieR and Kaine go on their different paths. Then you go to the run through B. So every time you load your game, you start from the moment that Emil is how do you say it? Is eliminating the petrification on Kaine. So the moment when NieR is already an adult and the team is getting back together. Then you will do exactly the same thing that you played in path A, but now you have access to what the shades say. So the shades, you will understand throughout the game that the shades are the real humans, and the people that you see are in fact replicants. And I felt like when I was playing, as I knew more about the plot, that the replicants are basically the clones that you see in that film The Island. So they are supposed to be shells, to be possessed by the shades so they can have normal lives again, but they couldn't create just empty vessels. So they are such good clones that they have their own thoughts, their own memories, their own personality, even if it's based on the original human. So it's really difficult to say which one is right, because the shades are former humans, but most of the time they are wild, they only want to attack replicants. So it's a bit difficult to understand or to take sides, because none of them is totally right. So in path B you do exactly the same thing that in path A, but now you can understand what the shades are saying, because they, to the ears of NieR, you listen some gibberish, they make sounds, but you start to hear what Kaine hears, because she is possessed in part of her body by a shade. So you start to understand what they are saying and that they have feelings, and of course you start to question some of the actions of the protagonist. In path C, so when you play again after you finish path B, you will have an extra bit where you see that at the end NieR and Kaine don't go different ways, Kaine starts to succumb to the power of the shade. The shade starts to consume her heart. So NieR has to fight Kaine, and you then are faced with two options. To obtain path C, you must choose to kill Kaine, because that's what she asked Emil, but Emil isn't here anymore, so NieR kills her, and you have this really interesting moment where you see NieR's true feelings, because he decided to kiss Kaine in her shade form. So he hates shades, he is really narrow-minded about them, but in that moment you can see that he really loves Kaine. And it's a really interesting moment. I really like the end. And of course, then you have path D, where you can choose the other option, which is trade your own existence, I mean the protagonist's existence, for Kaine's human form. So basically you sacrifice the protagonist so Kaine can still exist. And when you do that, all your save files, it's really similar when you do the ending E of Automata. They just erase everything about NieR, and everyone just forgets, including Yona. So everyone who was close to NieR just forgets about him. He is completely erased out of history. Then, when you start a new game, you can give a new name to your protagonist. I chose NieR to do this playthrough, and you gain access to path E. So you play the beginning just like you played at the beginning of the game with NieR, and after you defeat the giant shade that you suspect that is Kaine's grandmother, because you can hear her talking with Kaine, after you defeat it, you discover that everything you've played so far was actually a dream of Kaine, because she is having some kind of deep memories in her dreams about the protagonist, even after his existence was erased. You will play with Kaine, which was a lot of fun because she has a different combat style, and you also can gain a really cool trophy if you look 10 times, if you try to look 10 times under her, I don't think that is a dress, but whatever set of clothing she's wearing, and you can basically look under the dress and gain a really cool game over, because she kicks the camera and you die. Then you will have to go to the Forest of Myth, and you will see that because people were worried because there was going on something strange in the forest, and you will discover that everyone in the forest is basically dead. And you will see robots coming out of the divine tree, and then you will follow a path that starts to resemble machinery, and you will find what are supposedly 9S and 2B, or their models. Of course, the voice actors were also hired to give them voice acting, but their voices are a little bit distorted to sound like machines. And basically they are really interested in Kaine because they say that she is really powerful, and that they want to test her, and that it will be fun. So they have they are somewhat weird to deal with, and you will find Emil, and they will give you the opportunity of bringing back what is missing for Kaine. So you will do some kind of hacking like you do with 9S. You will see the world that you usually see when you do hacking with him, and you will try to go to the deepest parts of Kaine's memory. And basically you will basically destroy everything you've done until now, because Kaine wants to bring NieR back. So they don't say what happens to the world, you just see a giant lunar tear appearing in their world, and Kaine is hugging NieR when he was still a boy. So basically, I feel like this ending E is very similar to the ending of NieR Automata. So in NieR Automata, the pods decide that they don't want the world to end like this for the three main characters. And in this one, I feel like it's the same thing, but it's Kaine that doesn't want to lose the protagonist. And you will end with Kaine, Emil, and the protagonist, unconscious, back together again. And you don't know because probably, I mean, humanity was basically doomed the moment the protagonist destroyed the Shadow Lord, because he was the original Gestalt. But I mean, they are basically screwing up the world all over again by undoing the sacrifice that NieR did. And when you do that, you also get back your save files for ending A and B. So basically, you don't have ending C and D, which are the ones where you lose Kaine or the protagonist. It was a really interesting game. I played this game with the Japanese voice acting. I'm sorry, I tried to listen in the trailers to the English voice acting, but it just doesn't feel right. As much as the English voice acting does a good job, I feel like these games are made to be played in Japanese. And you will recognize it's really funny because Shiro, Grimoire Voice, has the same voice actor as the pod of 2B, if I'm not mistaken, so it's really funny. You also have the voice actor for Bakugo from My Hero Academia for the boy version of NieR. The voice actress of Kaine, I don't remember if I saw any. I think it was Meiji Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell. I'm not sure. And of course, you have Natsuki Hane returning to do 9S. I think it's Yui Ishikawa returning to do the voice of 2B, or their supposed characters, and lots of others voice actors, such as the King of Facade, which also has a very known voice actor. And the Japanese voice acting is amazing. You have different voice actors for the different ages of the protagonist. You have also the opportunity of playing with Papa NieR, so at a certain point of the game you unlock the diary of their mom, and the last entries are basically a few playable levels where you can play with Papa NieR. So it was interesting. I will say the same. I feel like the brother is the best design and it's the best version. I don't know, maybe I would have had to play the version with Papa NieR to really like it when it came out, but I really don't like the design. And I think since they suggest some kind of romantic sentiment between Kaine and NieR, I think it would be really weird to have that macho design, that macho older design, with Kaine as she is, but whatever. The designs are amazing, the environments, everything is really beautiful to look at. I feel like if I compare this game to Automata, it's much more enjoyable because the gameplay is much more fluid. The map is a really huge upgrade, and it was so easy to follow and to memorize the map that I did almost all the side quests, and at the end of the game I was a little bit frustrated for not being able to do every side quest, but because I only left 3, but one of them I had to fish 5 sharks and I was not up to it. The other was some kind of, it was someone in Facade that wanted 10 round striped objects, and I tried to show her a watermelon and she didn't have any reaction, so I don't know if I had 10 of those things. And I left the pink moonflowers side quest because I had 9 and I was like, no, I will do the main story and that's it. But I really enjoyed the game overall. I really enjoy doing the side quests. I really like to hear the interactions between NieR and Shiro because Shiro is super fun and he does really interesting comments, and it's really interesting to see their relationship develop throughout the game. Also, I didn't look up guides. I only looked up guides for the fishing tasks, and it was for the last ones because otherwise I would be trying different lures, trying different places, and just waste a lot of time, and you already waste a lot of time with the fishing tasks. You can also find all the weapons pretty easily, so you need all the weapons to obtain all the endings. I don't see why, but it's a requisite. But you can easily find them even if you don't look through a guide, so it's not difficult. I played in normal difficulty, it's really accessible, the combat, and also one thing that I always say about these games is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is phenomenal. Devola and Popola's song is one of the songs that stuck with me the most because it's really beautiful, the Song of the Ancients, and all the soundtrack is just mesmerizing. I spend most of the game just singing along, humming the tunes, and the soundtrack is beautiful, and I really recommend, even if you don't play the game, to just listen to the soundtrack because it's phenomenal. So this is my review. The game is really amazing, it's fantastic, it was a wonderful experience, and I would definitely return to gain some trophies. But not for now. I will continue to play the games I stopped, I made a break for to play this game. So tell me what you think, tell me what are your favorite characters, what you think about the plot, about the characters and their flaws or their qualities, and see you next time.